sir. What's up, Giants fans, Hub watchers, YouTube and Rumble subscribers, Twitter and Instagram followers? It's Kush back at it again with another episode of Just Chillin Podcast call-in show. I think might have been 2 weeks since the last time I was able to do this because last week was Thanksgiving week. The week before, I don't think I had a chance to do it, or maybe it's just been 1 week, but it's been 2 games since the last time we spoke. 2 losses in a row. First the Lions, and then that was really a terrible loss because we lost to Dory Jackson that game as well due to injury, among other players. And then 4 days later, without much health and without much reinforcements, had to go up against a very healthy Dallas squad on Thanksgiving and lost to them as well. And then now we are sitting 7-4. We are third in the NFC East, sixth overall in playoff standing. So we're still in the playoffs if the season were to end today. But we cannot afford to lose too many more games, especially with our next game being against the Washington Commanders, NFC East rival, who have won, I think, since week 6, they're 6-1, or a really good record like that. They've really improved as the season has come on, and they also are a 7-win team. So we need a lot of things to go right for us: coaching, health, players executing, the offense finding some type of success if we want to continue to get into the playoffs this season. But that, of course, brings up the question, what is the long-term plan for the Giants? Shout out to Big Blue in the Bronx, Yuvraj, Bo, Nate, Super Taj World. What's up, man? How y'all doing? And Nate, yes, I did. Along with, getting a little taper on the side. It is what it is. As you guys know, the call-in links is already available to the members in the community. And at around 9:30, I'll drop it for the chat. So the first person we got up here is, as usual, Mike. What up, Mike? How you doing?
Here, what's going on, huh?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We lost 2 in a row,
Yeah, I
seven and
know.
four. Washington, who's 7-5, up next. Let me hear your thoughts.
Well, this I would say it, it's typical Washington, and we own them. But to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous
Mm-hmm.
because I mean Taylor Heineke's playing pretty good football. I'm not going to say great football. He still makes mistakes out there, but they somehow find a way to win.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe Chase Young will be back for that game too. So I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Another thing that's definitely to keep your eye on is our pass rush has gotten 0 sacks in the past 2 games. Now, of course, and I don't want to use the word complain because it's just facts. Like, we see every single game Kayvon Thibodeau get held and choked out.
Yeah,
Tyler Smith
yeah,
just choked them out for 60 minutes straight against the Cowboys. Anyway, the rest of our pass rush, including Kayvon, because he's a little bit of an Olivier Vernon syndrome right now, so close but so far with
hmm
the sacks, but he's a rookie, so I'm not going to be too hard on him. But over the past 2 games, we have 0 sacks against the opposing team. And interestingly enough, going into this game, Washington let up 0 sacks. Their offensive line basically let up 0 sacks over the past 2 games. So that is not going to be a winning formula if their offensive line continues to perform like that, and our defensive line continues to underperform.
yeah, definitely. We have to find some way to get pressure and sack Heineke
Mm-hmm.
if we're gonna win this game. And also, I just wanna see like Daniel Jones and Dable kind of be a little bit more aggressive
Mm-hmm.
because I mean this is a must-win game, a must-win. Because if we lose this game and we We have Philly next, which, I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't see us winning that game
Right now.
right now.
Yeah.
And then after that, we have Washington again
Mm-hmm.
at their place. So, I mean, this Washington this Washington game is a must win for us to maybe get some momentum and maybe pull off an upset against Philly.
Yeah. Real quick, shout out to Ligma in the chat saying, "Let's go." Supporting the US in the World Cup. I'm not following the World
Yeah,
Cup, but y'all know I'm
yes,
following the
sir.
memes online, all right? We tied with
Yes,
England.
sir.
It's called soccer now. It's no longer called football. We beat Iran. It's pronounced Iran now, not Iran. Who do we have up next? I don't know. But Pulisic,
We have
yeah.
the Netherlands
The Netherlands,
on.
after we beat the Netherlands, is going to be called Holland. No longer the Netherlands. Well, I'll say this, though. Shout out to Pulisic. That man is right now Captain America. I've seen a lot of jokes about calling him Captain America because he's been doing so
Yeah.
good for the USA team. And I've saved so many memes of the presidents, artwork of like the old time presidents, like
Mhm.
RKOing the British and stuff like that. Is crazy. It's so many people online, including myself. I don't follow soccer a day in my life, but as soon as we
You,
play England,
you
it's over.
you know what? I don't follow soccer until the World Cup,
Hmm.
and then I root my hardest for the
Can you
USA.
imagine though? Like you still got people, fans of England, they're clowning the U.S. because they're like, "You guys tied, you didn't even beat us." But can you imagine if, if somehow, some way, a bunch of British people, like an England team, came over to play American football against the best America had to offer, and we
Yeah,
tied? That would be so embarrassing. Like the fact
yeah.
that y'all tied with America instead of beating America is embarrassing. Come on, England, do better.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and you know what? I hope we get a chance to play England again
Hmm.
in the knockout stages because unlike the group stages, the knockout stages, if it's tied, it goes to overtime.
Hmm.
And then if it's tied after that, I believe it goes to penalty kicks.
Nate says we wouldn't be able to see them again until the final. How poetic that would be. That's all I'm
How
gonna say.
poetic!
Until the
How
final,
how poetic would that be?
crazy. Yo, I heard that after I think Saudi beat Argentina in that one match, everybody on the Saudi team got a Rolls Royce. Man, that oil money is crazy.
What?
Yeah, everybody
That's
on the Saudi team got a
crazy.
Rolls Royce as like
That's
an award
crazy.
for it. Yeah,
That's crazy.
it'd be like that.
Yeah. So I just wanna go to basketball for a second.
Go ahead.
So I seen a thing today. LeBron James is averaging about 25.4 points per game,
Mm-hmm.
and if he continues that pace in 40 games, he would have a chance to beat Kareem.
Well,
Kareem.
I think it was a foregone conclusion that at some point this season he was gonna
Yeah,
surpass Kareem.
yeah,
Yeah.
man. I really hope he like turns it up. So by time they play the Knicks, I can go to that game
Mm-hmm.
because
When is
mm,
that? What month is that?
I believe it's January 31st or 30th. One of them
Man,
two
that's too
days.
early. I would definitely want to go because I think this might be his last season. And it's definitely on my bucket list to see him play before he retires. But that's a little
Yeah,
too early. That's a little too early. If it
yeah,
was like February or something, I could have probably made that.
yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. But I mean, I hopefully the Giants can get back some key pieces as we were talking
Yeah,
earlier.
so I saw tweets about Evan Neal might be back. I saw
Yeah,
Daniel Bellinger might be back. Not sure if they're going to be back for the game, but in practice today was Adoree Jackson. I think Aziz was in practice as well. And there was a third name out there. The one I'm most surprised about, honestly, is Adoree because he was so supposed to be out for like 5 weeks with his
yeah.
MCL sprain. So,
Oh, and just for the record, the Eagles and Giants game did not get flexed to Sunday night.
thank God it didn't because we would have lost. We don't. Daniel Jones and the Giants, under Daniel Jones, I should say, they don't do good with prime time.
I know,
Oh, Fabian Moreau.
but
That
honestly
was the
though,
name. Real quick, I saw both Fabian Moreau and McKinney might be back. We'll see. We shall see.
what this game?
Yeah, it's like it's still questionable, still very early on, but yeah,
I thought
both of them were supposed to be out for weeks, yo. So like
I thought
long time.
McKinney was put on the IR.
Was he? Let me check right now. This is what we do. We're gonna go to Twitter
Maybe
and we're just gonna look up
maybe
Xavier McKinney.
maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm
So
wrong.
this is from Jordan Renan 5 hours ago. Um,
Okay.
Xavier McKinney told me he fully expects to be back this season for the Giants. Had said he wasn't sure when. He was asked immediately after the accident. He was placed on IR, but he can return after Sunday's game, so he can return next week.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Aziz, Neal, and Bellinger all practice today, and it's looking like they might return Sunday if everything goes well. So
Okay.
that's three people right
Okay.
there.
Okay. So I mean that's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean right now it's just Saquon struggling, the offense is
Oh, yeah, I
struggling.
was gonna say we gotta touch on that as we're both big Saquon fans before I get to the next caller. Uh why do you think he's struggling these past two games? It doesn't help that it's a coincidence he's struggling after he got ran into the ground 35 times against Houston. So obviously that's
Mhm.
gonna bring up questions, but like what do you think it could be? Like, is he not fully healthy? Or and this would be a legitimate problem if it's just like he can't get past the stacked boxes. Like I know we don't have the best offensive line, but there are running backs in the league that still like burst through the stack boxes. We know this.
Yeah. I
They
mean,
Nate says he's just tired. It's not rocket science.
yeah, that too. We kind of have been using Barkley all season long, so
Mm-hmm.
that that much wear and tear to him can be tiring
Mm-hmm. Ligma
because
brings up an interesting thing. I don't know if one person alone would have this much of an impact. Interesting though, he says Saquon's production went down right after Evan Neal went out. Wasn't Evan Neal out the Texans game though? Or am I remembering incorrectly? I could swear he was out the Texans game.
I can't remember. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that would be a coincidence, though. That would be a coincidence.
Yeah.
But man, I just hope to God we win
I mean,
this.
it's a must win game. I've seen a lot of
Yeah,
fans describe it
yeah,
as early playoff game and whatnot. Because
yeah.
we've lost, this is crazy. We've lost 3 of our last 4 games after starting out 6-1. Lost 3 of our
Mhm.
last 4. Basically, every game from here on out is like a playoff game,
Yeah,
including the playoffs, because we have 5 divisional games left. We already got swept by the Cowboys, and you're gonna try and avoid getting swept by the other 2 teams. And then we
yeah,
also have the Vikings, who are one of the better teams in the NFC, and even the Colts, who on the Jeff Saturday ain't really gonna be an easy matchup anymore. So it's gonna be tough.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, so pretty much the Washington games, or I mean, or I would say both of the Washington games are a must win,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Indianapolis game is a must win.
I'm saying everything left on our schedule is. But Mike, let me get your last thoughts though before I pop on the next caller. But I'm gonna say everything on our schedule is a must win for
Hmm.
the end to end it out.
Hmm. I mean, uh, I I mean, even even if we don't make the playoffs, I kind of still see this season as a success.
This season is always gonna be a success because we're already winning more
Yeah,
than we expected to. So
yeah,
season really showed
and
us what our coaching can do for real.
yeah, but I mean, how about I just can't wait for. I just cannot wait for the upcoming upcoming rest of the season and the off season with you. It's gonna be fun.
Hey man, I'm gonna see if you actually make it to the Lakers game. I'm gonna see to just meet up with you and chill beforehand, man.
All right,
All right, then. Have a good one though, Mike.
all right, peace.
Next up, we got the unofficial co-host who said he copied my style before the stream. What up, Nate? It does look
It's
smaller. It does look
I gave it a
smaller.
little trim. It was getting too big. It was getting too big.
It
I had
does
to
look a bit
cut
smaller,
it
yeah.
down a little bit. But yeah, it's good to see you, Kush. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I always gotta ask, how's the food?
It's fantastic, bro. I just got on campus again today because I was on Thanksgiving break with the fam back on the
Mm-hmm.
other side of the state. So here's the thing. This is the first Thanksgiving in the I'm trying to think how far back I can legitimately remember Thanksgiving dinners, but as far back as I can remember, that we haven't had a kitchen from which we can roast a turkey. So what my parents did was,
Okay.
I know, it sounds weird. So what my parents did was, they ordered a smoked turkey that came, and in the oven they could reheat it to the point where it was still juicy and delicious. So I got my first experience with smoked turkey this Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
and wow, that is an experience everyone needs to have.
Smoked turkey.
Yes, sir.
The only smoked turkey I've had is in a deli sandwich.
It's nah, bro. It's delicious, man. You gotta try that. I wouldn't say it's as good as a classic Thanksgiving dinner, but for those who don't like regular turkey,
Uh,
that will be the cure
in
for
in
you.
this like household, we don't have turkey on Thanksgiving. We bake chicken, a lot of chicken.
Fair
You
enough.
know, just because like I don't
Do
know.
whatever.
Yeah, like the only turkey I like, I don't know why, is like deli sliced turkey. It tastes good in a sandwich. We got
I
Nate
will
Dogg and Nate
always
Shiesty names in the chat.
let's go, boys. I will always contend. I will stand on this that if you don't like turkey, odds are you probably just haven't had really good turkey because
Probably.
listen, my mom, I love her to death. She makes a delicious Thanksgiving dinner. I
Mm-hmm.
look forward to it all year long. So, shame we couldn't get it this year, but next year for sure.
We 7-4. Washington is 7-5. How
Hmm.
you feeling?
I mean,
After
we got
five,
to.
after 5 weeks, we literally could end up on the bottom after being
Yeah.
like second for the entire year.
Yeah. Listen, if we still want to make the playoffs, we got to sweep Washington. That's what it is. It all starts there. I don't think we need to win out to make playoffs, but we have to sweep Washington. With how our schedule looks and what we have left, it's got to be. Wins are hard to come by in this stretch of the schedule, as we already know and we're already seeing. If we still want to make it, we still want to hold our spot, we got to sweep Washington. That's just the fact of the matter. So that's a tough task. They're a hot team right now. They got a lot of momentum. They could be getting Chase Young back pretty soon, and not to say that they won't get him back this week, because they very well could. But in terms of Chase Young being at full strength, that could happen anytime. Obviously, he is Andrew Thomas's son, so that's not a huge concern, but it is something to think about.
Oh, I
And
just want to point out We haven't
ahead.
had a fair matchup between Micah Parsons and Andrew Thomas yet. The first one,
2
Micah
sick
was sick,
games.
and then the second one, Andrew was sick. And
Yeah.
yo, that Micah Parsons tweets really got to me, bro. When he was like, "I heard he was the best, so I stayed on his side all game." I'm just like, he was sick, man. Just wait until the
Yeah.
playoffs when y'all both healthy. All right.
Listen, bro, these Cowboys are the same as their fans, man. You know how it is. But I think if we're talking about getting healthier, we're talking about guys that we can get back. It's huge this week. 4 big names that could really possibly be back in the lineup, and I think it gives us a real chance to control our own destiny here because we do have the 6th spot, not the 7th here. We are still ahead of Washington by half a game. We control our own destiny, and a lot of people were saying they wanted the Falcons to beat Washington. The way I see it, I want the team below us to be Washington. And I say that because that gives us all the control. I want the Giants to make it in or not make it in.
I
based
literally
on how
do
they
not
play.
want a 2020 replay.
Yeah. I want the Giants to control their own destiny, and right now that's what it looks like. If we sweep Washington, I think we're in. That's how it looks. And that's the way I want it. I think that this team, obviously we're playing with house money this year. We know that, but this is a team that if we're going to make it, it's going to be because we deserve to make it. And if we don't, it's because we lost. That's just how it is. I like it that way.
And then plus, I mean, Washington has that game over Philly, which, man, I don't know if any other team's going to beat Philly for the rest of the season. I'm kind of hoping that Dallas can sweep them as well. And I agree with you. As long as we take care of business against Washington, we're going to be in the playoffs in some form or another. Couple comments here from the chat. Durant says, Washington does this every season, if you're referring to getting hot towards the end. Maybe in recent years. I don't think necessarily over like the past history.
I thought he was talking about embarrassing themselves with Sean Taylor stuff.
Oh,
That's what
is
I
that
thought
what
he
he was talking about?
No, not at all. I'm just bringing it. Not
But
at all. I'm just.
You know
bringing
what's
that
funny?
Up.
I don't know how to feel about that because it's a terrible statue objectively, but apparently his daughter and family loved it and like they were really moved by it. So I'm like, I don't know if I should hate on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for the family. I'm happy they're happy. Like that's great, and I know where you're coming from, but at the same time, it's so clearly just another cheap way out for Washington for Dan Snyder. I mean, I'm happy they're happy. That's all you can say. That's what it is.
Nova says, all depend on how the turkey is prepped, referring back to our turkey conversation.
Very true.
Ligma says, both of my GOAT coaches are bald, Brian Daboll and Greg Berhalter. But you're tripping though,
Bro,
Ligma. Washington's not free win.
Did you see the press conference questions that the U.S. was getting asked by Iranian reporters?
Nah, what were they? Give me it.
Bro, they were wildin', bro. The Iranian reporters were asking them about like American politics. Like Greg Berhalter, I forget what his exact last name is. He was asked. I swear this is a real thing I read on Twitter this morning. He was asked by an Iranian reporter why he hadn't asked for the United States to take a Navy warship out of the Gulf Coast or whatever. That was a legitimate question. Like the Iranian reporter apparently looked at him and said, "Have you asked for the United States to remove the warship?" And then they asked players about systemic racism in the country,
Bro,
and all these political things. Like, bro, Iran's reporters were
that warship one is wild, bro. That man, he thinks the soccer coach got pulled like that.
Iran's reporters were on one, bro. I swear, that's so funny.
Oh. Let's see here. Wait until Dak cap number kicks in, and we'll see how you feel playing against the Giants next year. Listen, is there a realistic shot at Lamar Jackson? I just want to ask.
No.
Okay. Nice. Cool. Flex says we shouldn't take Washington too lightly. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, man, go ahead. What you see in this Washington team, we got to sweep them, you say, but can we sweep them?
Can? Yes. Will? No clue. I do think we're better than Washington. I don't know by how much. A lot of that comes down to how healthy we are and how healthy they are. They have some very good players. We have some very good players. I would say it's decently definitive at this point that we are the better coach team, and that is what I think is going to give us the advantage. Personally, yeah, the old expression, it's a funny shaped ball. You never know how these things are going to go any given Sunday. My guess is that we'll split with Washington. That's my feeling. I would love to sweep. I would love to make the playoffs. My feeling right now is that we'll sweep. They have all the momentum. We're trying to get injuries figured out. We're trying to get healthy again. We're trying to figure out our identity on offense, which at the moment is the coaches trying to coach and manage their way around us literally having nothing. So I think at the end of the day, it's just going to come down to trying to expose matchups, trying to take advantage of what we do have, even if we don't have much, and just making sure that we make Taylor Heineke's life miserable. Because that's the key to stopping Washington.
I'm sure you heard what I said beforehand. We have 0 sacks in the past 2 games. They let up 0 sacks in the past 2 games. So how are we going to make his life uncomfortable?
That's the key, Kush. You got to have faith that when you bring that blitz and you have Azeez Ojulari back, you can get home. That's the goal. If it works, who knows? We don't know about that. All we know is that the best way to beat Washington for us is to drag them into a defensive slugfest and hope that we can force turnovers off of a bad quarterback. That's what we have right now. So at the moment, I am optimistic. I think our front four, when healthy, is one of the best in the NFL. Listen, it's going to be what it's going to be. No one can predict games before they happen. Let's just keep an open mind and be hopeful.
In terms of, the tweets about certain players being back in practice, is there anybody you actually think that we get back this game?
This game?
Yeah.
I think we will see Evan Neal back. I'm decently confident in that, if only because of his response to the reporter. That seems pretty confident from him. In terms of the other ones, I'll put it in order of likelihood rather. I would say Evan Neal, I'm pretty solidly confident we'll have back. Bellinger, I'm optimistic will be back. It seems like Dable has some hope for that, which means that I have some hope for that. And then I have no idea what's going on with Ben Bredesen or Azeez Ojulari. So we're just going to see. We're going to wait. We're going to see if they're healthy. If they are, great. If not, we'll see them next week.
Mm-hmm. Let me see here. The Irrelevant Franchise. Hey, new sub here. Welcome, The Irrelevant Franchise. Interesting name. I always welcome new subs. Shout out to Sober Party in the chat as well. All right, we got to ask real quick about the AFC. Just looking across conference, right?
Sure.
Random question, but you see the Bengals, they're kind of recovering from a slow start. What do you think of the Bengals this year possibly making, just because I'm a low-key a Joe Burrow fan. You think they can make another playoff run, or just going to be a one and done in the playoffs? What you looking like for them?
Well, first of all, Joe Burrow is absolutely destroying the narrative that he needs Jamar Chase to be good, which is obviously people sort of knew that was a terrible narrative for a while, but he's just piling on top of that narrative's grave because he has been on fire as of late. He's played really great ball. T. Higgins has been going off. They're operating that offense very effectively even without Jamar Chase, and now he's coming back. So the Bengals are in position to do exactly what they did last year and get hot at the right time, take momentum in the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. The AFC is an absolute meat grinder. It seems like nobody's good this year, but I have a suspicion that in the AFC, it seems that way because there are too many good teams.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guess as to why it may seem like nobody's good, but that's just wild conjecture. I would say that in terms of the likelihood of the Bengals being a repeat Super Bowl appearance, not high. There's a few teams in the AFC that are substantially better than them this year, but at the same time, you wouldn't have thought they had a high chance last year either. They were everybody's last pick going into the playoffs to make the Super Bowl just about. So I would think that the way they're looking now and the way they looked last year going into the playoffs, anything's possible for sure.
And I see Duran bringing up the Dolphins, who've been on a roll this season. What do you think about the Dolphins? AFC East is really good this year too.
AFC East is absolutely monstrous. The Dolphins have been great. I think they're going to continue to be great. I would say that, how do I want to phrase this? The Dolphins' offense is the most predictable surprise of this year, in the sense that it seems like everybody is all shocked that the Dolphins are rolling on offense, but anyone that looked at them in the offseason pretty much saw, okay, this offensive coordinator knows exactly how to use Tua's strengths, which is sit back in a clean pocket and find open receivers, and we just brought Tyreek Hill in across from Jalen Waddle. This wasn't exactly set up to fail. So I think if we're talking about the Dolphins, a lot of it's going to come down to their defense in a sense of how stable can they be. They've been up and down this year. If they can find some consistency on that side of the ball, I think they're a real threat.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's get the next caller on here. It's Nova. I will say, warning to everybody. This man is a little bit of a pessimist. It's the truth,
Oh, really?
Nova. It's the truth, Nova. All right, I'm realistic. I'm saying I don't know how we gonna do the rest of the season. This man probably gave up already, man. How you doing, Nova?
What's up? Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
You know what's funny? You introduced me like that, and I was coming on here to give a disclaimer. Like, look, I don't want to like seem like a super pessimist, but like I don't know. Like I'm still gonna give like very
Nah, give
you know,
your raw opinion,
like
man. Go ahead.
yeah, like it's I don't know. I just want to. I kind of get frustrated with like other fans, I guess too, and it's just like. Here's the thing. It's like it's not that I'm completely done with the season. I obviously just don't. I don't think anybody should feel like as good as like, good. The team's in a tough spot. I think there's no. I think we can all agree on that, right? Like there's no point
For
in
sure.
trying to fight with that. But it is just so frustrating to see so many fans like, oh, well, we're still gonna beat the Eagles and Washington is nothing. We can sweep them and the Colts are nothing. That's like, bro, how are you guys this confident? Like, do you see what is going on the field right now? Because here's the thing, right? Like, I know a lot of people want to point to like, oh, well, we were just undermanned in the Dallas game and it's tough playing them, on the road and Thanksgiving and the Lions game was whatever. But I'm like, all the bad things that you can take away from that game, it's like this was nothing new. Like all this stuff has been happening all season long. Like, and it's just I've been telling people for like weeks. I'm like, this is only a matter of time before this stuff starts catching up, and it really started like with the Xavier McKinney thing. And I'm not one of those fans that are like mad at him for getting on the ATV or whatever. But I was just like, losing X is not a good thing like at all, and we're gonna see some things. And not that Dane Belton has played terrible in his absence, but it's like, the little things that like he's probably getting beat in coverage a little more than X would have,
I
or
will
he's
say
taking
though,
some
with
bad
all
angles
the
on
defensive
tackles. Like,
injuries in the secondary, especially last game, they performed way above expectations. The offense just gotta find a way to score, man. That's all it comes
yeah,
down to for me.
and that's why losing Wandell was such a big blow too. Because and then it's funny because people were like, "Oh, well, Wandell wasn't contributing much anyways," but I'm like, if you're expecting the offense to pick up the pace a little bit, you would think Wandell would be somebody that could help that a lot. And now that he's not there, it's just like, oh man, like it's just another the injuries or just the receiving core in general has just been so thin all year. It's like we really can't afford to lose a guy like that. And it's just like I don't know. But again, I don't want to seem like as pessimistic. I am feeling a lot better with things than I was the past few days. And I do feel like they have a good chance to win this game against Washington coming this week. But if they don't win this game, it's like, I don't know. Like, and I get it. Like, in hindsight, we'll look back and still be like, yeah, the season was overall good success. But I think everybody is lying to themselves if they sit here and say that after starting 6-1 and 7-2, that we are not going to be massively disappointed to miss the playoffs. Like that's going to be a huge letdown. I don't think anybody can deny that. And I think fans can justifiably be upset if that happens, especially because like some of the reasons why it will happen is like things that were avoidable, like the injuries to McKinney and Adoree, and like so that's just kind of where I'm at with it. I don't know.
Why do you end it with a I don't know at the end?
Because like there's just so many like little things, but it's like
Kush,
I
Kush,
don't
don't you
get
hear
too
it?
down.
This man's lost. You can hear it in his voice, bro.
Yeah, like
That's why the I don't
just-
know is there.
There's things that like I teeter back and forth on where I'm like, oh, I don't know, maybe this guy can perform better, but then I see things on the field and I'm like, yeah, no, this is not gonna happen. But I don't want to get too down because if they win Sunday, then things look a lot better again. Then it starts
Yeah.
to look like, okay, maybe they might have a chance to end up sweeping Washington, and then maybe the Colts should be able to win still. But if they lose against Washington and like if they look bad doing it, like if the offense looks as bad as it has looked like the past 3 to 4 games against Washington, and like the defense just gets like blown up again, it's like, okay, this is this is gonna be a horrendous end to the season here. That's just the way I'm seeing it. I know a lot of people might think it's like pessimistic, but it's just like, I don't know, man. I look at the schedule, I look at the way the team's been playing, I look at like the time frames for some of the injuries. And again, that's why I said on the injury front too, there is some reason for optimism, like stuff with Aziz coming back and Kayvon having like his best game against the Cowboys, you will hope that maybe the pass rush can pick it up, even though, like you said, they didn't get any sacks the past 2 games. But maybe if they can actually start to become like more productive on a regular basis, it can mask like some of the deficiencies that we have in the secondary. But if
Mhm.
not, I really don't see the situation getting much better just because they're just so short-handed, and eventually you can only do so much with the talent you're given. But that's another thing I get frustrated too with is like, I don't know. Do you guys feel like the coaching staff sometimes just isn't making the best decisions with their game plans? Like,
I have an answer for this. So this ties into my general point about the Giants. A lot of people don't realize that many of the things that fans are getting on this coaching staff for, certain play calls, certain personnel usages, a lot of that just has to do with how they view the roster that they have. A lot of that has to do with the material they're working with. So at the end of the day, the Giants are going to be what they're going to be this year. We can't really we know what the team is. We know what the players are. We have an understanding of where this team can and can't go. We have an understanding of what it can and can't do. So once you have that set, the coaching staff, their job is to say, okay, we have this. We have this many players at this many positions who can do this many things. We're going to do as much as we can with that and assemble that into a game plan to try and manage our way around the deficiencies on the roster. The problem is when you keep getting injured and injured and injured and injured and losing more and more and more off an already thin and depleted depth chart, there's only so much you can do. So I think when you look at a lot of the decisions this team has been making recently, it does make sense in that lens. For example, some of the offensive play calls. A lot of what we've been doing on offense, some people say is too conservative. Some people say they want to see us in the drop back pass game more. When you look at the reps where we are doing those things, it's brutal. It really is. When you have an offense running normally, you have what you call bread and butter concepts. You have plays that you go to, some people call them money plays. That in a certain situation, maybe you have some second and short plays, maybe you have some third and medium plays, whatever the case may be, you have to have the players to execute those plays and consistently. When you go and watch the Giants in the drop back pass game in whatever concept you want to look at, whatever passing set that you want to see the Giants execute, it just isn't there. Either the receivers aren't getting open, or the offensive line isn't holding up, or Jones isn't seeing the open man. Whatever the litany of problems are, it is enough so that the Giants coaching staff feels their best chance to win is to completely narrow down our game plan. In the sense that the Giants are a team, we have one way to win. That's it. One way. Manage the game, grind it out, lean on the defense, hope the offense can score a few points here and there. That's the Giants this year. It's a razor thin margin for error, and it's not a team built for consistent long term winning. At the end of the day, that's who we are in year zero. You got to accept that. At the same time, that doesn't mean we can't win some of these games, and that doesn't mean the Giants can't be a playoff team this year. They've already shown they're capable of winning. The question is just going to become, when you have that set of circumstances going into a game, are you going to be able to execute what you need to in order to put yourself in a position to, as the players say, drag them into the deep end? Because that's what the Giants need to do.
Real quick, shout out to
Yeah.
everybody in the chat. We got 30 people in here. Get the likes up. Thank you so much for the support. Let me get a couple comments here. Timothy says, will the Giants stop the bleeding, get back on track, and beat the Commanders on Sunday? I hope so. The Commanders look really good in their past 6 games, and we've been kind of
Yeah.
up and down in our past 6 games. Flex says Odell, JK. Now we got to get
Oh goodness.
Bellinger and Neal back, and we may get X as well, and probably Landon Collins. Listen, man. Odell gonna go to the Bills, all right? That's what I'm saying right now.
Yeah, I doubt he's a Giant. And here's the thing too, like that's another thing I wanted to talk about, where it's like, I completely understand why so many fans are just so adamant about wanting him to come back here. And not saying that I'd be mad if he came back, but it's like I don't understand why they think that Odell is gonna come in and be this complete game changer for us. I'm like, his ACL is like made of string cheese at this point. Like he tore the same one twice back to back seasons. It's like, and he's 30 years old. Like, how much are you guys really expecting Odell to come in here in only a few games and just make a huge impact for this team? Like I said, if he came back, I'll be happy. He's one of my favorite players of all time, but I'm not gonna, like act like we just got like this trophy of a receiver because that's just not
He's
what
not
he is
the
anymore.
difference.
Yeah, I don't see him changing much. Like
AR
he
15.
ended up coming back here.
Yeah. Next comment, Mike Nixon says, Flex McKinney is on it for one more week. He's eligible to come. Oh, he was responding to Flex Lopez, my bad. Ravon Anderson saying the Giants will go 3-3 in the last 6. Man, we drop another 3. So we finished 10-7 in a wild card spot. Is what
10
he's
and 7
saying.
would be
That's
amazing
playoffs.
at this
10
point.
and 7.
No, yeah.
It is.
3-3 is just
I
about
would-
what you want here.
I would hope to finish better, but yeah, you're still definitely getting into the playoffs.
I
with
don't
10 and
see.
7.
I don't even. To be honest,
I didn't say we will
3-3.
be. I said I hope to be. I didn't say we will
It's a
be.
big hope there, Kush.
Yeah,
Listen,
because
you never
here's
know.
the thing too. We're talking about like we might end up having to sweep Washington. I don't know if they can do that. Like I said, it really depends what this first game looks like. Because again, you got to remember that Washington is playing the Giants 2 times in a row. They have 3 whole
If
weeks
we
to study
split
them.
with
Like,
Washington, we got to somehow, by a miracle, split with the Eagles.
Pretty much, yeah. That's about it.
Maybe if they bench their starters, the finale. If they have the
Oh
seed
yeah,
locked up, I don't
that's
know.
the team that'll bench their starters to let the Giants into the
Yeah,
playoffs.
that's the thing. I doubt it, and that's what I've been
Eagles.
telling fans too. Because if you've seen like recently, like teams that take 3 weeks off, like they bench their starters last week, have the bye, and then the week to prepare for their divisional round game, they don't do too well. So I think they're like, especially with the way Nick Sirianni is, like that team is very prideful. You know what I mean? Like I don't see it happening. And then I was saying too, what if he plays them for only a half, and in that half they're able to put up like 30 points on the Giants, and that's
Wouldn't
already
be
enough
surprised.
to beat them. Like
Wouldn't be surprised.
so.
That's very possible. I would also say, not that the Giants are in even the same chapter of the same book that the Eagles are on as far as rebuilding goes. That's not a team that's looking as strong as it has this season. They've had a weak few weeks. Let's be real here. So,
Yeah.
as much as I do not think we'll split with the Eagles, it's not impossible by any stretch.
No,
I don't know. It really depends because again, it's true. I think the Eagles can be had on defense, but again, I just like their offense is really hard to stop. And if this defense too, like it's just I don't think Nick McLeod is gonna be able to lock up AJ Brown and
Yeah, the thing is,
I
that
don't know.
the Eagles have this fantastically convenient habit of beating themselves, and if they do that against us, this is a team that all year long has been capitalizing on teams beating themselves. So, I'm just saying it's not impossible. Is all I
Yeah.
would put forth to you guys.
I would love for it to happen because I live right outside of Philadelphia and I've dealt with Eagle fans my whole life. Like, and
That'd be
I
interesting.
hear them talk like nonstop. I hear like
I
the way
lived in
the
New
Eagle
England. I
fans-
dealt with Patriots fans. I can relate.
Yeah. Oh God. The way that Eagle fans are talking this season, you guys have to understand. Like they've been talking this way my entire time, like growing up in school before they even won a Super Bowl. They were like 4-12 when the Giants were like defending champions and talking this way. And it's like I don't understand, but it is what it is. I can't. I think they're like the most obnoxious fans in the world. I give them
Oh, they
credit
are.
though because they love their team, but they're just I can't stand them. They're obnoxious. Like
You know what really irritates me about the Eagles? I hate how likable so many of their players are. That really
Yo.
bothers me.
Jalen Hurts is a really handsome man, bro. Let me just put that out
Okay,
there.
we didn't need to take it there, Kush. You
It's
did
true.
not need to take
It's
it
true
there,
though.
bro.
It's true though. I just
Okay,
like I just randomly
in
noticed that
all-
the other day, yo.
In all seriousness, why do Jalen Hurts, Jason Kelsey, Brian Dawkins, why do they have to have such awesome players? Why can't Brett Favre be an Eagle? Why do
Why
we have
can't
to
Karen
deal with Jason
Rodgers
Kelsey?
be an Eagle, bro?
Exactly. Why do they have to be so likable? All I
I
want to
don't
do
know.
is hate the
I
Eagles in
mean,
peace.
in like the early 2010s, part of the reason why I dislike the Eagles strongly too is I actually found a lot of their players dislikable. Like I didn't really like players like Deshaun Jackson and LaShawn McCoy and stuff like that. I thought a lot of them were kind of like could get
I
real
hate Deshaun
arrogant
Jackson so
sometimes.
much.
Like
So much.
and then there's like some no names only if you're like super fans that you remember that
Oh,
they
I
always killed the
I always
Giants,
hate
like
the
Connor
no names
Barwin,
because
like,
yeah, because like the Eagles fans act as if we're supposed to know them. Jamar Wilson with the flashlight. Whoa, Kush. Hold up now.
I mean, listen though. I will say this. In 10 years, you bet your ass I will remember who Boston Scott was.
yeah,
that's
see
true.
like things like that, like
You bet your
players
ass.
like that. Darren
They'll bring
Sproles.
Vietnam flashbacks, man.
Yeah. But Nova, let me get your last thought though. Then I have to pop on the Jet hater on here, and after the Jet hater, it's Tony.
Okay, last thoughts are I'm gonna try to become a little more level-headed again. I'm gonna try to keep a positive, mindset. Like I said, I felt a lot better these few days, especially seeing that we are getting some key players back that can contribute. Even though I still think the secondary is pretty suspect. But again, for me, I think this everybody's saying it too. Even Kayvon talked about it, and Brian Dable said it or whatever. This week is really gonna tell us all we need to know about the Giants this season. So I'm really gonna save my judgment on the team until then. If they win this game, even if it's like a hideous win, then that's amazing. Then great. Then I'll feel a lot better that this team can be good enough. They should be able to win at least 1 to 2 more games and be able to secure themselves a playoff spot, which would be great. But if it comes out again and they look flat like they have like the past few games and just completely, if they look unmotivated in a game like this where like their complete season is on the line and like they should have all the momentum and they know how much the game means and they just like look lethargic, slow, and like they're making mistakes and beating themselves again, then like I don't know, I'm gonna have a real sour taste in my mouth. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, it is what it is. Again, it could be a lot worse. Like I said, of course, the season is still a massive overachievement, but it just will be a real big letdown to get off to such a great start and have it all come crashing down for things that I feel were like easily avoidable. So
Yeah,
that's kind of my final thoughts.
got you. And go U.S. men's soccer. I don't even follow, but
Yeah.
we know what it is, bro. I know. Thank you so much, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks, Kush. You too.
Before I pop on the Jet hater, I don't know why he changed his name. I'm hoping that he changes it back to Jet hater. Before I pop on, let me get some of these comments. Shout out to Hirsch. How you doing? Sedan Smith. How you doing? Flex says we need to get Slayton open like he did against Dallas. That catch was amazing over the head. You know what's funny? We didn't even attempt a throw like that at all at any point in the second half. Like, why? Why didn't we attempt it at least once in the second half? It worked in the first. And it's something that I just noticed at one point in the third quarter, and it did not happen for the rest of the game. Rayvon says the Giants can easily split with the Eagles and Commanders. I don't know about easily, but I would hope so. Taj says the 49ers to him is more scary than the Eagles. What do you say to that?
At this point in the year, I kind of agree, actually.
Explain to me.
I think they're in a better spot at this point in the season. The Eagles are on their way down. The Niners are on the way up. It's very possible that flips again, but Niners are a hot team. They added Christian McCaffrey in the trade deadline, and that's worked out fantastically. So they're a dangerous team, the Niners are.
Mm-hmm. And let me pop on the Jet hater. It's Alex from Big Blue in the Bronx. What up, man? How you doing?
What up? I'll
What
wait
up,
for
y'all?
it to load because right now StreamYard's killing me again.
Long time no see.
Why did you change your name from the Jet hater?
I didn't even realize it was that because what happens is usually on my show on Big Blue in the Bronx for Boys in the Big Apple, I mean, we get a couple of Jeff fans in, and sometimes I'll talk negative just to talk negative. And then my brother changed my StreamYard name to Jet Hater because
Good.
someone referred
That's
to
a
me as
compliment.
Jet Hater. But I share a room with the Jeff fans, so I have it's kind of limited. But anyway, he gets to come to the Giants game with me this weekend, so it's gonna be a lot of fun.
There you go. There you
Waking
go.
up early for the tailgate, but shout out to everybody in chat, Irrelevant Franchise, Hirsch as well. He's my guy, and just everybody in chat as well. If I missed your name or whatever, but this team, man.
Start wherever you need to start, man. You got the floor.
Well, first of all, I want to know your guys' thoughts on this, since Ryan Dunleavy kind of talked about it as a possibility. What are your thoughts on Gates moving to left guard and Feliciano to center? And also, while you answer that, I've seen some fans really low on Mark Lewinsky. Do you think he should be benched for Bredesen once Azudu's healthy?
So, are we talking about in this moment right now, or when we're fully healthy?
For the Glowinski thing, once Zudu is healthy. So once we're like fully healthy, kind of.
Right. I mean, just for Nick Gates and Feliciano and Bredesen and all that.
Gates, Feliciano, and Bredesen, like right now.
Right now, I don't mind Gates being if Gates no. Okay, so I want Gates at center and I want Feliciano at guard if Feliciano is going to start. If we're going to allow Feliciano to be at center. If we absolutely have to, then Nick Gates might as well play guard. I'm sure he'll do fine. But ideally, I wouldn't even have Feliciano in the starting lineup myself. For me, if I went left to right, I would like Andrew Thomas, Ben Bredesen, Nick Gates, Mark Lewinsky, Evan Neal. I also have been somewhat disappointed in Mark Lewinsky, but he is better than alternatives, in my opinion. I think it's worth noting that in Buffalo, Feliciano was much better as a guard than he's been as a center for us. So that's, I guess, something we could explore during a week and during practices. But for me, Feliciano just has not showed starting level play. And at that point, he shouldn't be a starter. That's just my opinion on that.
Kush?
For me, wow, I thought I was somebody that was kind of on and off with Feliciano. You got him not starting. I will say I would prefer Gates at center, for sure. I'd probably shift Feliciano out to guard. And Glowinski, that's a really interesting you brought up. I haven't thought about Glowinski, in terms of replacing him, but if we get healthy, I wouldn't be opposed to having Bredesen, who looked really good before he went down, back in the starting lineup. Maybe at right guard. Got me thinking though, Nate. Has Feliciano really been that bad? Have I not been seeing something?
His lack of awareness is
It's
so
just
bad.
so. First of all, it's not just the main problem with him, which is the fact that he's not a center. He's not. As much as he wants to be, he is not a center. It's also the fact that he cannot pick up stunts to save his life, and it bothers me because every week we have free rushers up the middle at least once or twice a game, and every week it is John Feliciano's fault. And on top of that, there's the fact that he just gets blown off the ball on some plays, which Nick Gates does not do. Nick Gates every once in a while will lose a rep, sure, but he doesn't get killed like John Feliciano has. So as far as I'm concerned, they're going to put the best five out there is what I think they're going to do. And however they need to find that, I'm okay with. If you're asking me, I do not think John Feliciano has played starting caliber football. And when someone isn't playing starting caliber football, he doesn't start. That's how I view it.
That's a really good point. So I wouldn't be opposed to kicking him out of the starting lineup then. But do we have a timeline on Bredesen? On Azuti?
Well, I mean,
he was activated this week. The question if he's healthy for
designated.
this week or next week
Yeah.
is the thing.
So I mean, I want to put my confidence in like some of these guys coming back, but I was confident that Aziz was coming back before the Jaguar game, but he got on IR, so it's like,
Yes. Who knows?
please be
With
healthy.
this goddamn team.
Please be healthy so I could watch somewhat of a healthy team and a win for once, because the Knicks will disappoint me right after. Because I'll
Don't
be
talk
going to
about the
game.
Knicks.
I'll
Don't
be
talk
talking.
about
I'll
the
be going to
Knicks.
the Knicks game right after.
Why?
So it's-
Why would you do that?
Man,
Hey,
I've
honestly-
I've been to a Knicks game this season and it was a
Why?
win. It was a win. It was the home opener.
Okay.
But that's it. That was the home opener, bro.
I don't
It was also
understand you
because-
people sometimes,
It was also
frankly.
because my boss paid for it. He took us and a couple other employees out.
Okay, yeah, sure. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I'm still getting ridiculed by Nate for the Knicks thing and many other things as well.
Listen, I just don't understand why you would willingly give your money to that organization at this moment in time. Same thing with the Yankees for me. Like, I wouldn't buy a ticket to a Yankees game
I
and
wouldn't
put my
buy a
hard-earned
ticket.
cash in Hal Steinbrenner's pocket. I wouldn't do
No.
it.
I wouldn't do it either. I wouldn't
As a
do it.
matter of principle.
No, I agree with you. But I have a question for y'all. I mean, obviously, I haven't been on in a few weeks, so I haven't been able to like gauge your thoughts on this. And me and a couple of friends of mine and co-hosts or whatever people I associate with have been talking about this recently. Do you think Saquon is injured? Do you think they burnt him out? Because I think they could have used a little bit more of the passing game against the Texans. Obviously, he wasn't very good and very efficient the last 2 weeks as well. I started really noticing it against Seattle because he started dancing a little bit, just besides the fact that the O-line wasn't doing good.
Mhm.
And I forgot there was another point in my head. I think margin of error, I think that term is overrated, but I'm going to let you guys answer that question first.
Can you repeat the question?
He's asking about Saquon and whether you think he's injured or burnt out. And gosh, Alex, I am so glad you brought that up again because Kush was talking about it briefly before
Yeah.
I came on stream, and I did want to give my 2 cents on this because I said this in chat. He's tired. You know, like maybe there's a chance that he's playing through something and we just don't know about it. But with how often these guys get injured, and we do know, I doubt it. So with Saquon, I don't think this is rocket science, man. You're running him all the damn game. Like the fact that he's not only are we running the ball twice as much as passing it against the Texans, we gave Saquon a disproportionate number of touches in that game, even with how many rushing attempts. Like, if you're going to run the ball that much, Matt Breida needs to be more involved. We're giving Saquon so many carries. And listen, I understand where the Giants coaching staff is coming from, because it's like I mentioned earlier. They think this is their best way to win games, and that's all they're concerned with, is winning games however they can right now. And unfortunately, that is going to have the side effect of Saquon being tired as fuck. So I understand that, but at the same time, you can't give Saquon 35 carries a week and expect him to be a spring chicken.
I've been saying for how long, Nate, we have Matt Breida.
And
use
listen, Matt
your
Breida's
other
been doing
running
very
backs.
well.
Use your
very well.
Don't get me pissed off about Mike Kafka, because I feel like I'm the only Giants fan that really be pissed off
Don't
with this
pin
man
this on
sometimes.
Kafka. This isn't a Mike Kafka decision.
Whoever this is on, use Mike Breida more, all right? Matt Breida more, and
Mike
even
Breida,
use
huh?
even use what you call it, Brightwell a little bit more, bro. Like, there's no reason we shouldn't be
should
using
talk
our
about
other two
that.
running backs.
We should talk briefly.
By the
about
way,
Gary
shout out to
Brightwell.
Vibes in the chat. I don't know what flex you talking about, but go ahead, Nate.
Sorry, Alex, I know you want to say anything, but before we move on, I do want to mention Brightwell, because this is one of the things I absolutely love about how Kafka's been running this team. The way he was using Brightwell in that Cowboys game was so fantastic. I was a huge fan of that. Having him in as a pseudo fullback while everyone is giving the attention to Saquon that he's earning, and using Gary Brightwell as that sort of misdirection second option in the run game, taking advantage of how the defense responds to Saquon, the strength of the formation, how they're reading their cues and their checks. That's so creative. That's the stuff Jason Garrett wasn't fucking doing. So I'm a big fan of his usage of Gary Brightwell.
Yeah, I mean, there's another question when it comes to rushing that I have a question about pertaining to you guys and the offense or whatever. But I'm pretty sure Kush was saying that he feels like he's the only Giants fan that gets on Mike Kafka. And I'm going to tell
He's
you,
not.
if that's true, I am one of those guys. I'm in agreement with Kush. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, look,
I don't
concepts are
feel like
bad.
I unfairly get on him, by the way. I feel like I
Right,
only
no,
get on
I
him when
understand.
it's like it's necessary. When I see
Right.
things that I'm just like confuse me and shouldn't be happening.
Right.
Y'all aren't going to like my take on this.
I
Go
have a
on,
feeling
though. Go
what it
on.
is, but what I will say,
Go on.
What
Go
I
on.
will say is this. I'm not going to say that I disagree with the concepts what they're running with and all these different things. What I will disagree with is some of the situation stuff. You're running it with, 6 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. You're starting against the Lions. And listen, it's all, I can't say it's fan fiction because that's just a misusage of words right there. But people say, oh, well, the Lions, they're the 32nd best run defense. Well, the first 2 times they ran it, let's just see something real quick, because I tracked this from 2 weeks ago against the Lions. Saquon on first down had 10 carries for 12 yards. And even though Daniel Jones on first down only had 50% completion when it mattered, I think you need to do that more. Now, obviously, personnel limits that. I've been getting that thrown in my face a lot, so I understand it. But I think he just needs to open up a tad bit more in the passing game. I know that's a lot to ask with personnel, but trust me, teams make it happen. I know, obviously, we've been given, excuses in terms of different things with Daniel Jones or whatever. Oh, he doesn't have protection to throw deep. Well, he got walloped by a defender because Mark Lewinsky got beat on that Darius Slayton deep ball against Dallas. So that's not necessarily true. But while I know Nate's going to go off on his little tangent into my response, what I will say is this for another question to ask y'all about this offense is, I saw a couple of holes that Daniel Jones could have taken the ball and ran with against the Cowboys. Do you think that's him not straying away? Do you think they're just telling him don't just hand it off, or like what do you think was going on there?
I feel like it could be any mixture of things. It could be anything from confidence, from maybe wanting to prove that he can win through his arm, to the coaches telling him to maybe his leg don't feel right. Like it could be a mixture of anything. But at the end of the day, it comes down to his decision making, which has been way better this season. But like you said, you're not the only person that's noticed it this game. but in the past couple games as well, he has to go back to taking those holes when available.
That is such a Kush way of phrasing that. Wow. I'm just astonished
How
at your
would you
consistency.
phrase it? How would you
That's it.
phrase it?
Taking rushing opportunities.
Okay.
Any other way than taking the holes, Kush. Anyway.
I said those holes.
It's not better. Anyway, that's a great question, Alex. I wish I had the answer. The only way you could really ever know that is to be in Daniel Jones's head. That's the only possible way to know. Maybe that's a question a beat reporter ought to ask him, because that is something worth asking about. And our beat reporters have had quite the season this year. But in general, I do think Daniel Jones's rushing is the same as sort of everything that's happening with this offense, in the sense that we're just trying to do whatever can work. And from that standpoint, I'm not sure why Jones isn't rushing as much as he was in the beginning of the season. Maybe they got a little spooked by his injury. Maybe they have some concerns, or maybe Jones just doesn't feel it anymore. Who knows? But whatever the reason, it is something I do think we need to see back in the offense if we want any sort of success.
Let me get a couple of comments from the chat here, and then feel free to defend your man, Mr. Kafka. Supertaj says, Gary Brightwell looked just fine. Hirsch says, I'm a Earth, Wind, and Fire. We need running back by committee. Flex says, Matt Breida and Brightwell is the shit. So I agree with you. Use them more. Jamar says, we got Brightwell. Shout out to the heavyweight champion of the world. Flex says, do we still have Corbin? Jashawn Corbin, or are you talking about another?
Jashawn Corbin's on our practice squad still.
Practice squad, yeah.
Yes, he's a
Then
practice
Vibe
squatter.
says, Kafka has to step it up. Is it a lack of talent or lack of play calling? Go ahead. That's the perfect segue for you, Nate.
Sure. I know I have a reputation for talking my ass off, so I'll try and keep this short and sweet. With Mike Kafka, I think it's very simple. Him and Dable, and we should remember that the credit is shared between the two of them. Brian Dable's an offensive-minded head coach, and I'm sure he and Kafka have conversations every day about how they're going to manage this team, how they're going to manage games, and all of the questions that we're asking right now. I'm sure that's both of them, not just Kafka. Let's remember that. But even if it was just Kafka, every decision that's being made, at the end of the day, I think they're doing what they have the most confidence in to win as many games as possible. And it might not be working, sure. But I think if they're making the decision based on, we think, before I call this play, before I set this game plan, before I set this lineup, before I send out this personnel, that's what I think has the best chance to win and be successful. I have faith in those guys to do it, because at the end of the day, they have a track record that the previous offensive staff did not have, of being creative, of being able to use things that they're given, of being able to make something out of nothing. And at the end of the day, they don't have anything. So if they can make something out of it, that's just a positive. That's gravy. That's free. You know? It's not like we're disappointed because they're misusing weapons. It's not like we have receivers that we need to be seeing go off more. Like we're talking about Darius Slayton here, you know? I have his jersey, don't get me wrong. I have been a Darius Slayton supporter, I've been a fan. But this is a guy that realistically should not be higher than a wide receiver 3 on a team. And we're talking about the fact that he needs to be more involved in the game. Maybe, but at the same time, we're not talking about like the Rams with Allen Robinson. We're not talking about that. This is a team that is just trying to do what it can with what it has. And once we get some more weapons in here, once we have something for them to work with, and it's not just Saquon behind rapidly deteriorating offensive line, with a tight end that's gone that was promising, with a right tackle that's gone that was promising, with a wide receiver that's gone that was promising, then maybe we can start complaining about how this guy's managing the game. But for now, let it ride.
Speaking of wide receivers, let me get I'll go with Nate first, because I know he might want to celebrate a little bit of on this. Let me get about the real Kenny Galladay, Isaiah Hodgins.
It is time for a victory lap on that front, because I said that Isaiah Hodgins was going to be a contributor immediately, and so he was. I said he was going to take Kenny Galladay's spot, and so he has. And as much as I am so happy for Kenny Galladay that he has gotten one catch, I'm so proud. I'm sure his mom is happy for him. I'm sure he got a warm cookie and a glass of milk. But at the same time, Isaiah Hodgins needs to be getting all of the reps going forward here because we know Kenny Galladay's calling after the season. Let's see what the kid's got. I think he's got potential. I'll say the same stuff I did before we picked him up, or when we picked him up, rather. I think he's got a lot of good tools. He's got the frame. He's got the athleticism. He's a crafty route runner, you know. This is a guy that has a knack for getting the ball, and that's something we haven't had in this offense. So give him a shot, you know. I'm happy about it.
All right, go ahead. You had a take there. Go ahead, Jet Hater.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, when we originally signed Hodgins, I'm like, well, I'm gonna look at his frame, look at his height and all that. I originally thought he was gonna be like a somewhat chunkier version of Colin Johnson. I guess I'm like,
Chunkier.
yeah, I just feel like he's a tad chunkier. Like,
Do you mean
he's
better
like,
built?
Yeah, I guess you could say that because like Colin Johnson's like a Slim Jim.
A Slim Jim.
Yeah, he's a Slim Jim.
That's,
But what I will
that's
say,
big talk coming from you, Alex, my man. I hate
Yeah,
to
I
say
mean,
it.
I am a Slim Jim myself, in my own standard. But as far as I mean, I like the way Hodgins is produced, coming in here. As far as Galladay goes, I mean, I'm not surprised by anything I've seen. I am gonna go with a very biased hot take that he will have his first touchdown as a Giant.
Oh, God. Can we stop doing this,
Who?
please?
Who?
Please stop.
Galladay. But, hey, he got some key targets against the Eagles when I was there.
Whatever you
Please
say,
stop.
bro. Whatever you say,
Please
man.
stop.
Whatever you say. Honestly, I don't know at this point, man.
I'll cut my line of BS there, but also as well, what I wanted to elaborate on before is I think this whole thing of margin of error is very overrated. I know a lot of people mention it a ton, but even those, obviously Nate was talking about relying on the defense a ton, that can boost your margin of error. I mean, you see in some of these games, and I know obviously, yes, we don't have the personnel, we don't have Josh Allen, we don't have this, that, and the other thing, we this, that, and the third. Daniel Jones threw 2 interceptions against the Lions, and we were still somewhat in that game. That's why I think
Were we? Were we in that game, Alex?
I'm of that belief. Now I know obviously Nate's gonna
I don't know.
pound on me for that one. I don't think
He's
we were
gonna
in the
what?
Cowboy game.
He said hound, not pound, you psycho.
The fact that you
Jesus
heard it
Christ.
too. But
No,
go
I
ahead,
didn't hear it.
Alex.
I know
Go
what
ahead.
you thought
Hey,
is
hey.
what I know, Kush.
Hey, let
I know
Alex
what
finish
you
his
thought.
thought, man.
You
But-
sicko.
I just like Josh Allen as well. I mean, obviously they have a much better, more advanced offense than we do in terms of personnel and schematics. But how many times he's thrown games away, like against the Jets, they were still in that game, right? Now, obviously, you have to count on your defense and the other team making stupid mistakes, but it's just I think that whole margin of error thing is very flawed.
Okay, so let me respond to that. I think maybe it's a bit unclear what I mean when I say margin of error and what
No, I
some
know.
other people mean. That's not in the same way as a lot of things where we talk as fans, we call ourselves analysts, whatever. And when we're giving our analysis on games, sometimes we say these things are sort of vague and out in the ether and not really based in anything tangible. This is not one of those things. When I say margin of error, and I say that the Giants do not have a large margin of error, I mean in the sense that once we find ourselves behind, we suck at generating explosive plays. On a explosive play basis, we are close to the bottom of the league. I know Justin Pennick on Twitter and Doug Analytics do some fantastic work tracking that stuff and tweeting out good little nuggets. If y'all want to see the actual numbers, you can go look there. But we suck at generating explosive plays through the pass and the run at this point. It was better through the run when Saquon wasn't tired as hell and we had run blocking on the right side. But now with both, we suck at generating explosive plays. And that is how you dig yourselves out of a hole when you're behind. You need explosive plays. You need some way to get back in it, some way to rip off big chunks, to get yourself free possessions, get yourself free cracks at the end zone. We don't have that. That's why we have such a small margin of error. So when I say that we have a small margin of error, I don't just mean in the sense that, we're not a good team. We don't have talent. We can't just lean on talent. That's also true, but more importantly, we are not built to be able to come from behind on these wins. We're not built, and when I say that, I recognize that we have had some comeback wins this year, but we're not built to do that consistently. Now that we have Wandale out, and Evan Neal out, and Daniel Bellinger out, and Saquon's tired, and our offensive line is depleted on the inside. All of these things are stacking up to the point where those big plays that earlier in the season got us back into games, we don't have them. They're not there. They're gone.
Yeah. And I guess the final thing I'll wrap up with, because I'm pretty sure Kush mentioned that Tony, who's
Tony
one
up
of my
next.
subs, he's up next. So instead of Giants talk, he may try to push some Texans talk. He's a Texans fan. And
That's fine.
Sure. Find something for us to feel better than. That would be fantastic. Make us feel better about ourselves.
But where are you? And this is always a controversial question. Where are you guys at with Daniel Jones?
Let's start a fight. No, I'm kidding. Kush, you want to go first?
Listen, I'll start off by saying people very quickly forget on the internet. People very quickly forget that through 2019, 2020, and 2021, I was one of the biggest Daniel Jones defenders on the internet and on YouTube. However, I've said many times, no matter what, the kid was placed in the worst situation, yes, but there's always a ticking clock on you in the NFL, especially at the quarterback position. That's not his fault.
You know what NFL stands for.
And I just, not for long, and I just don't think, even at the beginning of this year, that he could have done anything that would have extended his time with the Giants. AR-15 to NYG. But
so you think he's completely done after the year? You don't think he's coming back like maybe in a 1 year?
I don't see why he would do it if he has suitors. And I do think he might have a couple teams asking, offering him some contracts.
I think there's a lot of facts in what Kush just said. I'll stick with the same stance I've had all year long. I will always say that if I see a reason that my opinion has been proven wrong or that I am wrong, I reserve the right to admit that I was wrong and change my opinion. That's something everyone should do. It's healthy. But at this point, I think this one was pretty solid from the beginning. Because Daniel Jones, regardless of whether you think he can or should be the franchise quarterback, in my opinion, it's been clear for quite some time that he won't be. For a few simple reasons. Number one, this organization wants their own shit. They want to buy the groceries if they have to make the dinner. You know what I'm saying? A little Bill Parcells quote there for you. So when you're looking at that, and you're looking at Daniel Jones, and you're saying all of the complexities and all of the nuance and all of the complications that have happened over the last 4 years of him being here, and you're talking about all the mess and the baggage that comes along with Jones and his time on the Giants and the terrible regime change and all this stuff, it's so much cleaner to just start fresh. And that seems like the kind of guy Joe Shane is. He jettisoned a lot of stuff in the offseason going into this year. He started with a big clean slate going into this season, and I think that's how he's going to continue to try and frame this organization. And with Jones, I think if it comes to the financial stuff, it just doesn't make sense for us to commit to him long term. So I don't think we will. And with that said, if you're talking about a shorter term deal, one of the ideas that's been pitched to me is that you do what the Chiefs did with Alex Smith and keep Jones around until you build up a Super Bowl contending roster, then bring in the quarterback behind it. How many teams are the Chiefs? There's only one Chiefs, and you can't rely on everything falling into place, the stars aligning and then you bring in your quarterback and the timing's perfect. That's just not going to happen very often. So I think if you want to fix quarterback and you want to get in your guy through the draft, you do it early, you get him in the system, and you develop him along with the roster. And when it comes to Jones, why would he take a 1-year deal? Kush is speaking facts. Why would he take a 1-year deal when teams like the Buccaneers, for example, or the Colts, or whoever are saying,
Literally, I say there's at least three
Daniel
teams
Jones,
that might throw him a deal that's like 2-3 years.
Daniel Jones has looked pretty good in times with the Giants. We're desperate for a quarterback. Why don't we just throw him in with our contending caliber roster and see what he's got? That's a thing that I would be shocked
imagine if
not
he
to
ends up
see
with the
happen.
Steelers, bro. I think he could do good in Pittsburgh.
I fully agree. So at the end of the day, Jones, whether you think he can or should be the franchise guy, it's irrelevant. I don't think he will be. So with that said, we have to just approach this with the philosophy of every week is a new week, every day is a new day. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, to finish up, as far as the Jones things go, I'm okay with whatever direction they go. I mean, I'm pretty much used to like all this.
With
other
you on
stuff.
that one. Been saying that for a minute too. If they stay with him, cool. If they don't stay with him, also cool.
Right. I mean, as long as it just works out and whatnot. Personally, I don't feel like the quarterback class next year, I think it's going to be 24. That's actually better.
I agree.
Even though I just watched
seems
one of
that
them
way.
just suplex my college team. You guys know that Notre Dame got suplexed
Oh,
by
that was
USC.
one hell of a night.
Yeah, it was. But I'm a fan of Caleb Williams. I have to watch Anthony Richardson a little bit more, but that's obviously stuff in the future. I know you guys were obviously talking about Giants being a fourth place team, but you want to know a positive silver lining of that is, well, guess what? We get a fourth place schedule next year, so it's going to be exactly like this year in a way, maybe. But I don't want to be fourth place. I want to be,
In the
a spot.
playoffs.
I want to be in the playoffs again. I want to, actually get the feeling of playing some real football. Real December football. I'll be going to probably the two winnable games for the rest of the season. I'm going to the Colts game on New Year's Day. I'm going to the Washington game this Sunday. So I mean, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, the Giants are at least 9-8. If they don't make the playoffs, whatever. We'll move into next season, and if they do make the playoffs, see if they can make it past the first round, which we'll see what happens there. But,
Alex, thank you as usual for calling in, man. Guys, make sure you check out Big Blue in the Bronx and the podcast he's have over there, man.
Peace,
Good
guys.
talk to you, Alex.
Before I pop in, Tony, let's see here. Taj says, got to see some more RPOs and read options for DJ. Galladay will be here till June, post-June 1st. Yeah. We were in that game until the Hodgins fumble, referring to the Detroit game. I mean, score-wise, yeah. I don't know if I actually had confidence in our offense to
I
actually
don't think
score
we were
back.
in that game.
Ligma says, I heard pound. Thank you, Ligma. Sedan
Of
says,
course you did, Ligma.
penalties kill running teams. Nova says, if Daniel Jones come back, cool. If they move on for him, cool. And the heavyweight champion in the world, I think for the first time, saying something other than woo, says DJ will be our franchise QB. There is no QB in the draft. We're giving up draft picks to go up. If you look at the QB ratings, he is top 5. Why would you give that up? You can't
Let's
just look at
table
the
that and go back to it,
stats
'cause I have a
without
response for that.
context, though. Yeah, let me pop in Tony Clark from Florida. What up, Tony? How you doing?
Hey, fellow Floridian in the stream, bro.
You're not Floridian, bro. You just happen to be in Florida.
What's going on, guys?
Bro, listen, I've adopted it. I'm
You don't
gonna
even
live
have a
here now,
Florida
man.
accent.
Florida doesn't really have that distinct.
You've been there for like a couple months, bro.
4 now. No, much longer than that.
What's
5.
going on, guys?
What
How
up,
you doing?
Tony? How you doing?
I'm all right. So, as Alex told you, yeah, I'm a Houston Texans fan. I don't have too much to say about the Texans because
Sorry for your loss.
I don't want to throw my tablet, but I grew up watching Washington, and because I lived in Maryland, and I became a Texans fan because I wanted to be a fan of a team since its inception. So when they came in the league, I said I'm going to be a Texans fan.
That's cool.
The only thing I can say as a Texans fan that we can hang our hat on is every time we've been in the playoffs, we beat the Cincinnati Bengals. So we own the Cincinnati Bengals.
That's awesome. Love that.
But and I was very impressed. Alex did a live stream of the Texans Eagles game for me because I wasn't going to be able to watch it down here.
Cool.
And I was very impressed with that game that the Texans actually held their own that whole game.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a blowout per se.
Mhm.
But
especially in that first half,
I'm
too.
tired of seeing my team. Yeah, I'm tired of seeing my team roll over and play dead. And I'm just I hate Deshaun Watson. We lose everybody that we have was good. J.J. Watt, Deshaun Watson, Andre Johnson, fucking DeAndre Hopkins. We get nothing for Hopkins when we give him away. And so I'm not too optimistic right now in terms of anything to do with the Texans. But I wanted to talk about the Giants-Commanders game.
Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
I grew up watching Washington, and I'm like, I guess you could call me a fan of them. But, I love Taylor Heineke. I think he's one of the best game manager quarterbacks in the NFL. The dude's 13-4 as a starter. And I love the beginning of the season, they asked him about the quarterback competition during training camp. And he said, there is no competition. They're not going to bench a $30 million guy for me. And look what's happened. Wentz gets hurt. Heineke comes in and runs up everything, and they bench the $30 million guy for Heineke.
Yeah.
And I think Logan Thomas, I'm starting him on my fantasy team this week because I think Logan Thomas is going to have a big game. I think he's going to get 16 to 20 fantasy points. And I just don't see the Giants being able to hold up against the Washington defense. And however, I love Slayton, and Alex did a stream earlier about should the Giants, bring back Slayton. I absolutely think they should. I think Slayton.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
is
he's going to be too
excellent.
expensive to bring back. I think he'd be a great, like, second, third receiver on the chart. He's definitely proven himself a lot this year. And I think he'd probably want to come back as well, so I'm down for it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do agree in the same sense of the Texans. The one thing the Texans and Giants have in common right now is both Barkley and Pierce, I think, are burnt the hell out.
That's what happens.
They just the thing is though, Pierce had an excellent game against Philly, and then the next two games he's just burnt out.
That's what happens.
I think that you take into account Saquon's been our entire offense is definitely something to really look at. But like I said earlier in the stream, I don't know if our running game is the life of our offense and Saquon is burnt out. Why don't you just use Matt Breida and Gary Brightwell, our two backups, more?
Well, a lot of that does also come down not just to the actual ability of the players, but the matchups and the scheme opportunities with Saquon in the game. Because of how teams play him, because of how they defend against Saquon when he's on the field, a lot of that is how you structure some of your offense. And if they're not responding that same way when you have Matt Breida in the package or you have Gary Brightwell in the package, that can hurt you a lot. So some of that is probably going to be scheme. Not all of it, but some of it, for sure.
The other guy I really like for the Giants, and unfortunately he's out, and I think that's what the biggest problem is I love Bellinger.
Agreed.
I think Bellinger opens up a lot of options, not just with Barkley, but with the, play action and all that. And I think without Bellinger, it makes the offense very predictable.
Yeah, a lot of that, and he brings up how predictable the offense is. That's entirely true in the sense that based on which tight ends we have on the field, it's very easy to read what our range of outcomes on that play is. But second of all, it's very obvious. It was incredibly clear that once we lost Evan Neal and Daniel Bellinger, a lot of the run blocking went out the window, and that was just terrible. And that's made things all the harder on Saquon Barkley. So I fully agree that Daniel Bellinger coming back would be huge.
But I truly just can't get past the fact that, with Heineke has just really impressed me beyond belief. And, the Washington team got saved. They would not be in this situation if Wentz was the quarterback. They'd probably have 3 or 4 wins.
I think I agree with you too. The part of it you also know is that Washington for years now, since 2020, that locker room and that team, they just really believe and support Taylor Heineke a lot, and that really gives you that extra oomph when playing on the field.
Yeah, and the team just trusts him so much. They're so confident in him that it's, I haven't even been able to watch Washington too much this year. I only got to see 2 of their games because being down here, I get the stupid Bucks games, which I find so boring. But a lot of times they'll play the Miami Dolphin games, which is good because I enjoy watching Jalen Waddle. I'm really not sold. And as a Texan fan, it's like, how am I supposed to be motivated to watch the NFL? And being a regular watcher of Big Blue in the Bronx, I do watch a lot of Giants and Jets games. And, I'm interested in my game of the week this week down here is the Jets and Vikings. And my personal opinion is the Vikings are going to kill them. But a lot of people think it's going to be a lot closer because the Vikings have a horrible defense. But I don't see that. I think Justin Jefferson's going to have a huge game.
Ooh, so you're predicting the outcome of the Jefferson versus Sauce matchup.
Yeah. I think that Well, I think Thielen is going to have a big first half because I think the Sauce matchup with Jefferson in the first half is going to be good. But then I think in the second half, Jefferson's going to make the adjustment and just run him ragged.
I mean, that's definitely going to be a war on the boundary. I'd be excited to watch that. I'm not sure. If you don't mind me asking, what part of Florida generally do you live in?
I'm on the West Coast. I'm in Newport Richey.
Okay, got you. I was actually just visiting my parents in Sarasota
I'm
yesterday, but
Tampa. I'm west of Tampa, right on the Gulf.
yeah, I'm south of Tampa. But now I'm back at college and I live on the East Coast in Boca Raton. So we probably get different games on most weeks.
Yeah, but and as a Texans fan, it's to the point where I'm not going to abandon my team, but I'm already just saying, all right, well, I'm really looking forward to the draft because we're going to have 3 picks in the first 32.
Sure.
We're going to have, I think, pick 1, pick 12, and pick 32.
Listen,
1, 12, and those are 3 picks in the first round. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, right now,
Yeah,
I'm looking at the draft order. Right now, I see Houston at 1 and Houston at 10. Where's the third draft pick you have?
It's either 32 or it's right at the beginning of the second round. I thought it was at the end of the first round or the beginning of the second.
It's probably the beginning of the second then. But yeah, having that many high picks is obviously very helpful. There's a lot of great players in this draft. I think looking at this draft and looking at the order, it is remarkable just how far the, pardon my English, fuck them picks mentality has gone in the NFL. Like, look at this top 10. This is insane. I mean, the 3rd overall pick traded from the Rams to the Lions in the Jared Goff, Matt Stafford deal. Denver at the 4th pick sent to Seattle in the worst trade of the century. New Orleans, 6th overall, sent to Philadelphia. Cleveland, 10th overall, sent to Houston. 25 sent from San Francisco to Denver. 29 in Miami forfeited. This first round is insane from a trade standpoint.
Well, speaking of the draft, let me ask you guys this. With the Texans, a lot of people want to argue about, is Davis Mills the quarterback of the future for them and all that. But first things first, they absolutely need to get a hold of their offensive line. They need a better offensive line.
Sure.
I don't follow college football, so who do you think would be the best offensive lineman in terms of the draft?
Well, I actually haven't started scouting offensive linemen just yet. All I have at the moment are names. What positions on the offensive line do you need? I know Laramie Tunsil is Laramie Tunsil. He's fine. Do you still have Titus Howard on the offensive line? How's he playing?
Yeah, he's doing good.
Okay. Well, in terms of offensive, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
I think there's
a little bit of
here
delay.
for sure. Yeah, I've been noticing that. It's getting worse. Anyway, I think in terms of offensive tackle, one of your best options just went back to school at Penn State, which is brutal. But that's his decision. Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern is a really solid option. He was the guy that replaced Rashawn Slater at Northwestern. In terms of the interior, I haven't gotten a fantastic chance to look just yet, but Ricky Stromberg is a center out of Arkansas that I've been hearing about for 2 years now. There's definitely going to be some talent in this draft for y'all to look at. The question is how high you want to take it, because you have the 1st and you have the 10th.
Yeah.
So, that's up to y'all.
Yeah, I could definitely see us trading down and letting someone else come up and take the big name quarterback.
Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So,
I got a question for you.
But anyways, that was that was pretty much it. But I just wanted to focus a little bit more on Washington because again, I'm really sold on them with Taylor Heineke. We wouldn't be having this conversation if Wentz was the quarterback. I definitely see Washington as a playoff team. And I actually predicted about a week and a half ago on one of Alex's streams I see Washington most likely, and this is far fetched, but it's my prediction. I think Washington's going to make it to the NFC Championship.
Wow.
That is a
I think they're
big
going to lose.
prediction. That is still a huge.
I think they're going to lose. Yeah, I think they're going to lose, but I think they're getting to the NFC Championship.
That is huge.
They've already proven they can beat Philly. They already proven they can beat Philly. Minnesota barely beat them by 3.
Mhm.
Washington basically gave it away. So I do see Washington getting far.
That's certainly an opinion. Fair enough.
That's
Yeah,
up there.
So, but that's my take on that.
Fair enough.
But, all right. Tony, though, thank you so much for calling in, man. I appreciate it. I always appreciate it when a fan of another team calls in. Thank you so much, man.
No problem, man.
Next up, we got Sam. And Sam will be the last caller for tonight. What up, man? How you doing?
What up? How are you guys?
We good.
I'm good. How about you, Sam?
Pretty good. So I just wanted to call in because do you guys think it's this our season's over if we lose this week?
Pretty much.
It would be really
think,
hard.
yeah.
I mean, it depends. Like, do you mean season's over as in getting to the playoffs? Is that what you're talking about?
Because that's
Yeah.
all we got
Yeah.
to look forward to right now.
Yeah, because, like,
I would say yeah.
I would say you'd have to split with Philly if you want any type of realistic shot at the playoffs.
I think that I don't know if we sweep Washington, we have to pull one out, and this one's probably the easier one at home. Then you could probably beat a team like the Colts, but I can't see us the way we've been playing recently and all our injuries, and it sucks because all of our guys, it's like right when they start playing good is when our guys decide to get hurt. That's when the NFL wants to get us is right when we get hurt.
The
Or
injury
right when we do
gods.
good.
That
Wandale
is.
Robinson's our first receiver with 100 yards, and then of course he's gone. It's just I don't know what our luck is. So I'm not ruling our season over yet. I've just been looking closer to the draft than I was a couple weeks ago. And I see a lot of people talking about Anthony Richardson. What do you guys think about him? I don't really like Anthony Richardson. He makes a couple flash plays a game, but then he'll miss guys wide open in big moments on 4th down.
It's valid. Yeah. Kush, do you want me to go first, or you want to?
For sure, because you're definitely, listen, I'm an Anthony Richardson fan, but you guys know me. I don't watch any type of college football until the Giants are finished in the season. So go ahead, Nate.
Sure. To talk about Anthony Richardson specifically, there is a whole other conversation about this quarterback class and how the Giants ought to handle a position in general, but that we can talk about that later. Anthony Richardson himself. I think when you look at him as a prospect, what you have to understand is you need to accept that you're not drafting a guy to start right away. You have to accept that if you're going to take Anthony Richardson. A lot of people
If he even
talk about
comes
him as a
out,
prospect.
right?
If he comes out, which
Yeah.
I think he's going to. We can talk about that in a minute. We'll get to that. But a lot of people, when they talk about Richardson, say, yeah, well, he's not going to be a starter in year one. I understand that, but at the same time, any team that's going to draft him should already have that in mind. They should know that he's not going to be the guy right away. That's not going to happen. There's guys that can step into the league year one and do it and just go. Like there's Joe Burrows, There's guys that are ready-made for the pros. Anthony Richardson isn't one of them. He's just not. When you're drafting Anthony Richardson, you are drafting a project. And you have to understand that when you look at teams like the Chiefs or the Bills that take that incredibly talented quarterback and work over time on developing out of his weaknesses, developing his mistakes out, getting all that stuff hammered into him as a player and as a signal caller, that takes time. So when you're looking at Anthony Richardson, you're drafting athleticism, you're drafting talent, you're drafting potential. The reason I think he is a good fit for the Giants is if anyone in the league can take that potential, that athleticism, that profile, and turn him into Cam Newton 2.0, it is Mike Kafka, the quarterback coach of Patrick Mahomes, and Brian Dable, the guru of Josh Allen. That's the team that's going to do it. We already have both offensive tackles in place. With one receiver, we will finish that receiving core, having the number one threat, Wandell in the slot, and Slayton is the 3. And we have a check down tight end, a safety blanket, a guy that he can throw to and be confident he'll catch the ball. That's already in place. So when you're looking at a guy like Anthony Richardson, if the Giants were to draft him this year and let him sit behind Tyrod Taylor, he's going to have a very good chance to develop. That's what you're drafting when you're drafting him. He's a different prospect than a Bryce Young. Bryce Young is a ready-made, out-the-box quarterback. He's year one. He will already be able to do all the things you want him to do. Anthony Richardson isn't like that. You have to understand that as a prospect. But once you have that in your head and you understand what you're buying, for me, I think it's a good purchase. I think it makes sense for this team. I think it's a good move long term. At the same time, there's sort of, and we'll transition into the quarterback situation in general, there's a thought out there that I'm also very okay with, and I would like to see us do, which is if Joe Shane and Brian Dable look at him and say, no, I don't like it, too much risk, don't want it. The thought is we could trade out of our pick in the first round this year for more ammunition next year to go get a guy in next year's quarterback class, which at this point looks a hell of a lot better. This
That's
class
exactly
this year,
what I was thinking.
the class,
I would pull the Saints. Anything, I would do anything. 3, 4 first-round picks for Caleb Williams to be a Giant. He is
that's the thing is that
clear cut the best
next year's
quarterback
class,
in college football.
oh yeah, for sure. Next year's class is looking a lot better than this year's. This year's started high and has deteriorated rapidly. Stroud has had a lot of problems that he hasn't been able to overcome. He had a slow start. A lot of people thought he'd get over it. Statistically, don't get me wrong, he's looked great, but the statistics in college are meaningless, especially with a team like Ohio State. So he's had some problems he hasn't gotten over. Will Levis has had some problems he hasn't gotten over. Hendon Hooker looked real good but tore his ACL. Anthony Richardson has been really up and down. So all of the hype that surrounded this class early has really died off. Next year's class has now entered the period this year's class was in earlier this year. Sorry, that's a terrible way of saying that, but you know what I mean. So there's guys like Caleb Williams, Drake May, Quinn Ewers, a lot of names floating around out there right now. So if Joe Shane sees one of those guys and says, I want to be in the sweepstakes next year, then maybe he does call up a team like the Saints. Maybe he calls up a team that really needs a quarterback and he wants to bet on them sucking next year. And that maybe puts us in the Eagles situation where they have the Saints pick and they're wherever they are right now. 6, is it? That's the position Joe Shane would be aiming to put us in next year where you have the ammunition to trade up. So there's a lot of ways they can handle this. I think Anthony Richardson is a good fit. I think it makes sense. But if they don't feel that way, that doesn't mean we're out of options. You know, we have a lot of ways we can play this. So from that standpoint, in that long-winded roundabout answer, that's how I feel about Anthony Richardson.
And now, where would you address wide receiver? You would if
in the draft.
In round 2?
In the draft. Round 2, yes. Well, again, are we drafting quarterback round 1? That's the question. That's everything. Everything is answered by if we're drafting quarterback round 1.
In a perfect world where like you said, my number one option would be to trade out and have multiple first rounders next year and do whatever you can to get a guy next year.
Agreed. Yeah, I think realistically, unfortunately, we are not going to be in a position to draft the marquee name in this class, which to me is Quentin Johnston, a receiver out of TCU, who
Hey, I tweeted about him a
absolute
couple
freak.
months ago.
Oh, did
Yeah.
you? Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but he is an absolute freak.
He's like,
Physically,
like
his
a couple
skill
months
set's
ago, he was the
ridiculous.
only wide receiver I knew about in college football.
He's the true X that this team is craving so desperately, but unfortunately, I can't see him falling out of the top 10. I just can't. He's too talented. There are, luckily for us, a lot of other good options. There's a lot of receivers in this class that I think are solid and I think could fall because there's some guys up top that I think might be overdrafted just a little bit. So there's names like Tank Dell out of Houston, Josh Downs out of North Carolina, maybe even Jalen Hyatt could fall. You never know. So there's definitely answers in this class. The one thing I do not want to see us do, and I don't think we will, but I'm just going to put it out there, I do not want to see us address wide receiver in free agency. This is not the class to do it in. There are no receivers that are going to solve our problems, especially not at the price point they're going to come at. So I don't don't fuck around with free agency. Just draft the receivers. That's how I see it.
Yeah, if we're bringing an outside wide receiver, I'd want it. If this is what we do and we think Jones is a guy, I'd want it to be through a trade like Philly did last year. I don't. The free agent class this year in general isn't that good. There aren't very many good players in free agency. The one guy I think we could look at if Tampa were to let him leave would be somebody like Jamel Dean. But I don't think they would let a corner like that go. He's been really good this year.
The problem with this free agent class isn't necessarily that it sucks. It's that it sucks at the positions we need. So there's just a lot of teams that are going to be very excited to sign some big name players, and we will not be one of them. Odds are that most of the big names at our positions of need are going to get re-signed. The only one that I do have some hope for in terms of a superstar that we could bring in and spend our money on is Roquan Smith, because there is a world where the Ravens give Lamar a massive contract and Roquan Smith is just too damn expensive. And my God, if Roquan Smith hits the open market, he must be a Giant. Must. He has to be. But that said, this is a very strong free agent linebacker class. There's other options as well. Roquan Smith is just the only real superstar.
A lot of people are saying Edmonds, I'm guessing because the Buffalo connection.
Yeah, it's not a bad option. It's definitely a guy I'd take a chance on the potential there. But you also have to understand he's not nearly Roquan Smith. That he's not
of course.
an out-of-the-box superstar. He's a guy you're hoping will make a good adjustment in Wink's system.
I was surprised the Ravens got him for as cheap as they did. A second-round
pick. Same here. If we could have gotten him for that, I would have immediately.
Absolutely.
Any day of the week.
I think our team right now is in the stages of what the Niners were doing in their rebuild, the defensive side at least. And if we could have gotten a Roquan Smith to be the Fred Warner type linebacker for our defense, I think that would have been incredible. Because right now, I think we have our edges solidified. Obviously, hopefully if Aziz comes back and plays like how he did his rookie year, Dexter
and in
Lawrence,
the beginning of this season too.
Yeah, he was great. Dexter Lawrence is the third highest graded defensive player in football this year. He's great.
He's him.
Kayvon Thibodeau leads the rookie defensive lineman in pressure percentage, and Leonard Williams has been great all year too. I think if we could get a good linebacker behind that, you could hide your deficiencies at corner.
Yeah, I think linebacker is the only spot I would like to see us attack in free agency this year because it is a very strong class. I mean, there's a lot of different options at linebacker in this free agent class, so I think we absolutely have to attack that in free agency. There's other spots like receiver, like corner, where we got to be looking at the draft. So if you're looking at sort of the roster dynamics of the Giants right now, all of the different needs we have to address in as many ways as possible. And when you have an opportunity like this linebacker class in free agency, that needs to be something we do so we don't have to waste picks on it in the draft because every pick counts. Like some of these names could be very, very helpful for us. Deion Jones is a guy that he got sold low to Cleveland, but he could still be an impact player for us, you know. Roquan Smith is a name I already mentioned. Aziz Al-Shaair, if the Niners don't have enough cap to bring him back, that's definitely someone I'd look at.
Are there any interior offensive linemen? I'd like to look at that.
It's a terrible offensive line class in free agency. It really is.
Yeah, I figured most teams, when you get your offensive linemen, don't let them go.
Anyone that's young isn't good. Anyone that's good isn't young. That's how this line class stacks up.
Yeah, I wish we were in a position like what Tampa did to trade for, I think it's Shaq Mason in the beginning of the season.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's just a question of how we want to address these gaps in the roster, and I think there's so much that we really should be prioritizing in the draft, and then linebacker is the only position we should be prioritizing in free agency. And by the way, I don't want to brush past it. A couple of people mentioned a couple more names at wide receiver in the draft, being Rashee Rice out of SMU and Zay Flowers out of Boston College. Two guys that definitely have some juice. Those are names to watch as well.
I will say, though, Sam, we get your last question because I got to end it out and be out of here soon.
So, final question. If I could give you guys a scenario where you would this year draft Anthony Richardson and Tyrod would be the starter and we'd have a high pick, and next year we got Marvin Harrison as our number one receiver, or would you rather this year? Get
Nah, I don't know what the second option is, but you say we somehow get Marvin Harrison. I'm taking
Or-
that.
my friend actually played Marvin Harrison Jr. in a basketball in the AAU tournament before.
Did he survive? Is he okay?
Marvin Harrison actually, he said, wasn't that good at basketball.
Was he not? That's hilarious.
He picked the right sport. But the second option would be this year you get somebody like Hyatt in the second. Let's say he falls, and
I would love that, but like, is Jalen Hyatt gonna make it to the second?
I think that there's enough good defensive players this year and linemen. I think there's a lot of them that he can maybe fall early and you'd have to move up a little. But
maybe.
But so pick whatever receiver if we
Sure.
don't think he falls, and then next year we trade up to get Caleb Williams. So any receiver this year.
The thing is that like I feel like we know Marvin Harrison is gonna be that guy because he already is at the college level. Like we could all agree here that nobody could like. It's way hard to predict quarterback, so we don't know if Caleb Williams is gonna be that guy, you know. And I feel like that's the only reason I'd say I'd take option one because we get Marvin Harrison Jr.
It's an interesting question in a lot of ways, and there's more nuance than just the A versus B of it. There's also, I think about the scheme fit of what we're looking for here, and my goodness, Jalen Hyatt and I'll pretend he does fall to the second round. Jalen Hyatt and Caleb Williams in this offense would do some stuff, man. But
Hey,
I think
you good over
I
there,
think
bro? You good over there?
I'm thinking about some things, Kush. But I think I would also go with Richardson and Harrison just because Marvin Harrison is him. He is. He's that dude.
I guess
it's-
I'm the
it's
only
close,
guy.
though.
I guess I'm the only Caleb Williams guy. I watched Bad
Nah,
Dog talked about him.
There's a lot
Oh
of
no,
Caleb
we're
Williams
big
fans.
Caleb Williams guys. I would.
No,
I
but I'm saying
I
like,
think
I'm
it's
the
him.
only
but-
one choosing that
No,
second.
got you.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I watched Bad Dog talk about him since he was a Sooner fan, and he
Oh.
talked about him his freshman year.
Sure.
And I watched him this last year and this year, and I think he has the potential to be the next Allen Mahomes. He's, I think, by far the best quarterback in college football. I don't even think it's really close.
That's because it's not.
I think CJ Stroud, he doesn't have an arm to play on the East Coast.
CJ Stroud is Jared Goff. Let's be real. That's who.
Yeah,
he
I don't
is.
really. I think he's going to be another. I don't think he was better than Justin Fields coming out. I think Justin Fields was a better player in Ohio State.
by a lot.
And I think that Stroud's arm isn't good, and he'd have to go to a team that plays maybe in a dome. And I just don't think that these conditions up here, him playing in MetLife wouldn't be good. If you guys watched, I think it was the Penn State and I think maybe Northwestern, the ball was just sailing on him. He just didn't have enough zip on it.
Okay, but in fairness, the conditions in the Northwestern game are not something he's going to experience every week in the league.
I know, but if you're playing in a place like MetLife, and if you're playing up here, you're going to have an arm later on in the year.
Absolutely, but at the same time, when he was playing Northwestern, there were 40-mile-an-hour gusts. That's not every week.
But in the Penn State game, too, it wasn't just that one game.
I didn't see that one.
In Penn State, he missed a couple of throws. The wind got him. I don't know. I think the final thing, I think Bryce Young's a lot better. I don't think it's close at all. And I think he's a lot closer to Will Levis than he is Bryce Young, too.
Fully agreed. I don't think Stroud. I don't think there's anything about his game that's special. I think his ceiling is being a solid starter, which he could or could not hit. It's impossible to know. And Bryce Young, I do think is special for the simple reason of his ability to extend plays. It's not normal. It is not normal.
He reminds
he
me
can
of
do.
Russell Wilson. Obviously better coming out, but he reminds me of a Russell Wilson type player.
In some ways, yeah, I can see the comp. The thing about Bryce Young, and I mentioned earlier that he's very different from Anthony Richardson, where Bryce Young is a day one out the box NFL quarterback. You put him into the league, he's going to immediately know what to do. His throws with anticipation are wild in college. College quarterbacks don't throw like he does. They just don't.
I just gotta say, I gotta dip out, guys. This has been a great college football talk too. where I'm just sitting here absorbing all the information because I don't know nothing right now. So yeah, but yo, Sam, thank you. These were actually some really interesting questions, man. Shout out to Nate for being the unofficial co-host, hopping in when he can, and shout out to everybody in the chat. 39 people in here right now. Get the likes up. Just to end it off, what you think gonna happen on this Sunday, Sam?
I think now that we're getting all our players back, I seen that it's Bellinger isn't seeing double anymore. He's gonna play. Aziz is gonna play, and Evan Neal is gonna play. I think they'll win this game because they have to win. I think they'll do everything to win, and I think we'll come out with the win. I don't know about next Washington game, but I know this week I think we'll win somewhere along the lines of like 20, 24-20, 23-20, something like that.
Got you. Any score prediction for you, Nate?
172-2.
I like that one.
Giants.
That one would be a lot better.
The Nate seal of approval.
On that rock, because we're not scoring over 30. But shout out to everybody that was in here. Thank you so much. And we gonna be out. Where's my stream ending thing?
Gotta
Damn.
find that.
There it is.